Hello, tiny news publishers. It's always great to see you. Thanks for joining me for our continuing asynchronous how to get your ghost site set up. As always, even though we're doing this on video, not on a live call, I'm available to you at any time. If you get stuck, you need some help, you need to ask a question, whatever it is, please get in touch. The idea on converting our onboarding over to asynchronous was so that you could sort of work through the bits that you wanted as you needed them. And that would free up more of my time for the things that you couldn't do by watching a video, like help you change the size of your logo or work through some how do I make my layout do this thing that it's not doing or whatever. So anytime you're having trouble, please don't hesitate to get in touch. I am here for you. I am part of your publisher plan, and I'm delighted to assist you. All right. And there's my contact info. Other good options include pinging me on Slack. Happy to talk to you there. So just let me know what you need, okay? Today we're going to work on how to send a newsletter. Not all sites do send a newsletter, but many do. And so let's go ahead and let's sort of work through how do we get set up and how do we do our first one. I think if you've already published a post, you'll find that most of this feels really familiar because it is. And let's go ahead. First off, in order to send a newsletter, you have to have a member, and some of the settings won't be visible unless you have a member. So let's go ahead and let's click this members button and let's click add yourself as a member to test. If you've already made yourself as a member, cool. You could also do this right from the front end, right? You could run through your whole sign up process yourself. And in fact, you probably should to make sure that if somebody contacts you and says, "Hey, I'm having trouble getting logged in," that you'll know what it looks like or what it should look like, right? But I'm going to just hit the button. Boom. All right, I'm a member. Now that we have a member, we're ready to go. All right. So let's go ahead and let's go down into our settings, hitting that gear icon in the lower left corner. And we'll just sort of work through some of the settings that we want to go ahead and take care of. So let's start by going down to newsletters. You can click the menu on the left and then the right side will scroll. You can just scroll. You can search, whatever gets you there. But we're going to get down here to newsletters. So you want to make sure that your newsletter sending is turned on. If this setting is off, you will never send a newsletter. If it's on, you'll have the option to send a newsletter. So turn it on, okay? Um, and then we also here can set our default recipients. This is when you make a post, should it by default go out as a newsletter or should it not? Okay. And a few more options like, do you want it to go out to all members? Do you want it to be by default to be paid members? Um, Specific people. What do you want the default behavior to be? I recommend either whoever has access to the post, if most of the time you will want your post to go out as a newsletter, or if you're going to publish a lot of posts but only send an occasional newsletter, you may want to set it to only to usually nobody. You can always send or not send your newsletter regardless of this setting. It's just a question of what's the default. I keep mine on usually nobody because I will forget to turn it off and accidentally send something that I didn't mean to be a newsletter. Otherwise, but you may be more organized than I am. So I'm going to go ahead and set mine to usually nobody. You pick the setting that feels best and come back anytime to change it if you realize that you don't like what your default is. Okay? Um, Next, we're going to see down here newsletters. You can see which of our tiny news members I did some work for most recently with my demo site because, hey, I imported their content and here's this newsletter. You will likely have one newsletter when you start. It'll be sort of your default newsletter. Okay. You can add additional newsletters by clicking Add Newsletter. But let's just pick a newsletter and then we'll click Edit. Okay. Um, if you don't like the name of your newsletter, I think the first one starts out as your site name. You can change that. So we'll change it. So we'll make it Kathy's Awesome Newsletter. You can give your newsletter a description. People who are going to sign up on your site will see this description when asked, if they want to change their newsletters. So it's a good idea to say what it's about. So we'll say weekly email about Kathy's life. Wait, what life? Okay, good. So we've got that taken care of. Um, you can put in your sender name as whatever you like. You can also put in your sender email address and your reply to email address. Note that if you change these settings, you will likely need to validate that email. You'll get an email from Ghost. You'll need to click it to prove that you're not impersonating somebody else, that it is an email you control. I do recommend that you pick a reply to email address that is something that will drop into your inbox. Okay, it doesn't have to be your main email address if you don't want it to be, but something that has an inbox attached to it or forwards to an inbox and that you'll check occasionally. People do sometimes hit reply to email unsolicited, and we will probably actually ask them to hit reply to our emails a few times. More on that in a minute. Um, but so for now, I'm just going to say Kathy at Spectral Web Services. You can put your real name, you can put your organization name, whatever you like. Um, everybody who sends this newsletter will use the same sender name. So unless you want to change it every time before you send, if you're a multi-founder newsroom, you may want to make it from your newsroom, not from a specific person. Um, and then do you want to subscribe new members on sign up? If you have only one newsletter, it probably makes a lot of sense to check yes. If you have three or four and there's kind of one main one and some secondary ones, you may decide that some of them should not auto subscribe. That's fine too. But for your first newsletter, I recommend that you check the box. Usually, when users give us their email address, it's because they expect us to email them. So the default being off could be kind of confusing for those members of the public. Okay, so I've done this. I'm going to hit save real quick just to make sure I don't lose it. And then please notice there are some tabs up here as well. Um, Maybe you'd like to upload a banner image for your newsletter. And what we're seeing on the left is sort of what our preview is going to look like. Okay. We have a bunch of toggles. Maybe you don't want your publication title up there, but that's your website title. So my website's name is Kathy's Demo Site, but maybe you don't want it there and you want to sort of be newsletter focused. Maybe you want to sort of be site focused and not newsletter focused. You could play with your toggles. Do you want to show the post title or not? Again, up to you. Some people don't show the title of the article. Some people do. If your newsletter is your weekly roundup, then and all your titles are your weekly roundup for the week of blah blah blah, maybe you don't want that. So anyway, you can play with those. Do you want to show your feature image or not? Usually people do, but it's optional. Um, and then we can also down here, we can ask our readers for feedback. That's this more or less like this. It's sort of engage them a little bit. What do you think? We hope they hit the thumbs up button, right? Um, you can also, if you'd like, turn on showing your latest posts. And I recommend that you turn on the subscription details section. This is, hey, why am I emailing you? And it includes a link to allow our user to manage that subscription. I think it's good policy to make it as obvious as possible to people. Why are we emailing them? I'm emailing you because you signed up for my website. Here's when you signed up. Here's the email address that's receiving it. Um, the number of times that I've debugged the problem where somebody was getting two copies of the newsletter because they signed up twice with two different emails. It'll make it a little more obvious if you put what email am I emailing right there. Okay, so anyway, you can turn that on or off as you like. Some people love the Powered by Ghost. They like to wave the little ghost flag and say, I love Ghost. Other people are like, look, get your brand off my newsletter. So you can toggle that toggle if you don't like it there. Okay. Um, Super important. We have this email footer. For compliance reasons with the CAN Spam Act, you need to fill in the email footer. All the rest of the playing around, do I want my name or not? Do I want to upload a separate image? That's on you. You can do what you like and what you feel makes your newsletter look the way you'd like it to look, but you must fill in the email footer. It needs to have your mailing address. This is a compliance issue before you can send bulk email. And yes, newsletters are bulk email. Okay, so What we need to do then is we need to put in our address. I observed that lots of people are using PO boxes here, but I'm not a lawyer, so I won't tell you how to be compliant. But you need to put an address in here. Please do. Some of the sites I work with include additional information, like if they're 501(c)(3) registered, they may include that number down here. They may include links to their donation page, like if you could link your monkey pod down here. You can put whatever text you want down here. Okay, so feel free to do that. And you can, if you highlight, you can actually include links. Okay, so feel free to make use of that. Put in the link you want to link. You can also bold it. Whoops, I want to stay on this page. So put what you like down there. So you'll see. We'll go ahead. Okay, so anything you'd like to include down there, um, feel free to get organized. I believe we can also include multiple lines because I have a client doing it. Yes, so if you want multiple lines, just hit a carriage return in that field. You'll get multiple lines. Okay, so good opportunity to include some small text that you might like to include. Okay, um, let's go ahead and add a header image too while we're here. Where are my ghost images? I just need something cute. I have actually no shortage of cute in my folder here, but I need one that works. There we go. It's actually an ad, but just to get something in there. So you can see I'm loading a header image up here across the top for my newsletter. Okay. Um, is this the right format of this image now? But again, we can see it this way. Okay. And I'm going to turn a few more things on just so we'll be able to see it all. I also typically like the excerpt. If you're using your ghost excerpt as sort of a subhead, makes a lot of sense to turn it on here. And then finally, just to continue admiring the parts, we do have access here to a bunch of design related settings. You could change your background color. If you've always wanted your background color, oh, that's ugly. If you've always wanted your background color to be pink, today's your day. You can change your heading weights. You can't load a custom font in newsletters because the email client doesn't necessarily have that font, but you do have choices of serif and sans serif, so you can at least get a little closer to your brand. Um, Again, more options here. Are you a left aligned or a center aligned kind of person? You've got those choices. You can set some section titles and so on. If you like the hollow button instead of the filter button. Anyway, there are some options I'm going to quit nattering on. Feel free to play with them. What you do for your newsletter affects what people receive in email. It does not affect what people see on the web, which is controlled by your theme. So, what's on the web and what's in email, while they may have the same content, will not necessarily have the same styling applied to that content. So, for what specifically people see in their email inbox, this is where you set it all up. Okay, so feel free to come and play around with that. But the one thing you must do, even if you don't want to turn your background pink, is do make sure that you fill in your address in the email footer. That's a minimal must do. Okay, so I've done the work I want to do here. I'm ready to go. Um, and so now we can go ahead and send a newsletter. Okay. So to send a newsletter, I'm back to my main dashboard. We actually do that right from the posts menu. A newsletter and a post are actually the same thing in Ghost. The only difference here is it on the web or is it in the email inbox? And we can write the same content and have it go both places, or we can choose just one place or the other. So I'm going to go ahead and click posts, and it's my empty demo site. So let's just go ahead and create a post. And now once we're happy with how all of that looks and we've written all of our content, let's go ahead. Oh, let me show you one more thing before we go on. Let me show you two more things. Um, the first thing I want to show you is that there is an email card available. Let's go ahead and let's pop an email card. So get on a blank line, hit the plus button, or type slash email. Both are good. Where is that email card? Because I want it, I will not be able to find it. There it is, email content. Anything in email content goes out by email only. It won't appear on the web. So again, with this idea that we're double publishing. This email content box is kind of limited. The only thing it really does is give you plain text, and it will do a substitution. So sort of the default behavior here, and you can edit this just to say, hey, are you feeling formal? You can make it hello. And then you'll either get first name or you'll get their if you don't have their first name, if they left the name block box blank. Okay. So if you'd like to address your reader by name, assuming you know it, this is a way you could do that. Okay, so we'll leave that on for our previewing in just a second. The other thing that we can do that I love because it's so flexible is we can use this new call to action card. Where is that? I tell you, there. Okay. And so let's just go ahead here. Maybe we are making a sponsored post and we want to include some information here. So let's say, please visit our sponsor. Okay. And this is again a funding opportunity. If you can sell some sponsorships for your newsletter, could be a good opportunity. You can add images to this card. You have some design settings for this card as well. I'm going to do something very minimal, but I do need to put something um, on that button or else it won't function. Okay. And then what I wanted to show you here is that we have visibility settings for the call to action card. Not all cards have visibility settings, but this one does. So, for example, maybe you are not loading sponsored messages for people who are paid subscribers. Maybe this is, hey, you should be a paid subscriber and support me. So you don't actually want to send that message out to people who are already paid subscribers because I don't need to ask them to do something they're already doing, right? That'd be weird. So you might turn it off for paid members. Or maybe you have something you want to say just to people who are emailing or just to people who are visiting on the web. So another way to do an email message then would be to turn off all the web content and just leave it on for email. You don't get the name substitution in there, but you do get a lot more styling. You can put links in. You have lots of good options there. Okay. The one other card that has this behavior where we can toggle things on and off is that HTML card. And if you have an embed that you need to use, maybe you're using some sort of integration that gives you an embed code that you can paste into your post, anything that runs JavaScript, which is pretty much all the embed codes, will not work in email because email clients don't run JavaScript. It's a security thing. We're glad they don't. But what that means is that if you try to send somebody an embed by email, they're probably going to get an empty square, possibly a big empty square. And so, what I like to do then, if I'm going to put an embed in my post, is to make sure, let me put it back. That's a pretty small embed that would work fine in email. But there's this little visibility setting here for HTML that, again, I get the option to turn that card on or off as I need. So if you have something that should only happen on web or only happen on email, um, an HTML card is another option. Everything else does both. So if you really need to have hugely different content that's not covered by these couple of options, the other option is just make two posts, email one, publish the other one to web. But in a lot of cases, we just have a few things that are web specific or email specific. And so we can build one piece of content and just toggle the visibility for those few items within that piece of content. Okay, this has gone on way too long and we still have not sent a newsletter. So let's get on with it. So here we are. We're going to click publish. Okay. And what you may or may not have already noticed is that under publish, we have choices. We can choose publish an email, we can choose publish only, or we can choose email only. Okay. Email only means it doesn't appear anywhere on your website except if somebody clicks the view in browser link from their email, but it won't like show up on your homepage or anything. I generally recommend that you publish and email if you're emailing because sometimes people do want to go back and read something older that you wrote that maybe they've deleted from their inbox. And it's kind of nice to have a newsletter archive of all those news stories you wrote. If you need help keeping your newsletter separate from your homepage content, that's super easy to do. Feel free to get in touch. It's super easy to do, but I have to write code. So happy to help you with that. Lots of sites have a newsletter archive page that's separate from the stories on the front page, and I'm happy to set that up for you. Okay. Um, so we will want to say publish and email for this one. And who do we want to send it to? Well, we can choose which newsletter we're sending to if we have multiples. So we said we were going to send it to Kathy's awesome newsletter. And we can choose, do we want to send it to free or paid? We can also choose, do we want to send it to specific people? If you have labels, like maybe people you saw at a specific event and you want to email them a follow-up or something, you could use that. So we've got some options there. We can also choose, do I want my newsletter to go out right now or do I want to schedule it for later? Okay. So lots of folks will queue that newsletter up, but then they've picked a time that they want their email message to arrive. Other people are like, breaking news, got to send it right now. Both options good. Just know that this is here if you want it. If you schedule it, it won't appear on your website and it won't go out by email until that scheduled time arrives. Okay. Before we send, let's go ahead and let's hit the preview button. You can actually do that before you hit publish, or you can do it right now. Let's do it right now. Um, and I think I demoed this when I talked about making a post, but it's so important, I'm going to do it again. I apologize. Put me on double speed play if you need to. My feelings won't be hurt. I talk a lot. So I wanted to point out here, though, that in our preview tab, we have an email preview option. And if we click that, we will see what it's going to look like on email. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like on web, which my theme controls. This is what it's going to look like by email. Remember that salmon background I set up and said, oh, that's ugly. Well, here it is. Okay. You can also change here in your preview which of your newsletters you're previewing if you have multiples. And you can change whether you're previewing what a free or a paid member sees, because that may be different for you if you have some content that's marked for only free or only paid. You can adjust your subject if you want to, or it'll autofill to the title of the post. Okay. This works mostly without needing to actually send yourself a test email, as long as you put yourself in email preview mode. But the first time you're using an embed code or something, or if you're getting a little off the beaten path and you want to make really sure before you send the first one that it looks good, hit this nice little test button here, and you can send email to yourself and then check in your inbox and make sure you like how it looks. Different email clients do parse email a little bit differently, so it looking right to you doesn't guarantee that it looks right to everybody, but it's a really good first step. In general, Ghost does a really good job of producing emails that work in everybody's browser, unless you're monkeying around with the HTML card and embed codes, in which case you should definitely test it and you should pull out your phone and you should see how it looks on your phone. And once you're happy and it's all good, then we can go on to that publish button. Make sure you like your settings still. Continue to final review. It's going to tell you what's going to happen. Let's go ahead and let's hit publish and send. We're sending to one subscriber. That's me. So I'm not too worried about sending nonsense content to myself. Okay. Um, let's look at the front end of our site. And so we can see here is the newsletter that I just published and emailed. So it's appeared on my site where I expected it to show up. And so you can see here that we're seeing what we expected to see based on our settings. You can see here's our visit our sponsor message that clearly would need to be better if I was going to send it. Okay. And all that good stuff. So that's what it should look like for our users when they receive it. Okay. Let's talk about email delivery for just a minute before we go on. Okay. When you send your first newsletter, it may or may not end up in recipients' inboxes. It may end up in their spam or clutter folders. Um, if they're using Gmail and they have the multiple tabs across the top, it's probably not in the primary inbox. I mean, that's fair. It is a newsletter. So it may be over in the updates folder. Uh, you can improve your deliverability for all of your users by asking them to do a couple of things. Ask them, especially for your first couple of newsletters, hey, did you get my email? Would you please hit reply and tell me you got my email? It feels yes. Are you going to bomb yourself if you have a lot of newsletter subscribers to start? A little bit, but it's super good for email deliverability to get your users replying to you. It's a signal to all of our big mail hosting companies like Gmail that your email is legit and people want it because they reply to you. It helps both for the individual person who replies to you, but it can also help more broadly address it for that whole email sending email service provider. So, highly recommended. You don't have to ask them to reply to you to let you know they got it. You can instead ask them a question at the end of your newsletter. I would love to hear what you think about the new upgrades in blah, blah, blah park. Would you please, if you'd like to share that with me, please do. Uh, hit reply. So ask people to reply. Also ask people or encourage people who maybe have told you that your email has ended up in spam or junk or clutter or somewhere it's not supposed to be, to add it to the safe senders list, to give it a star or to mark it as important, to drag it into the appropriate folder. All of those actions help for deliverability for that user and often more broadly for other users on the same platform. So encourage people to reply, encourage people to click your links, encourage people to add you to their send to add your address to their address book. That's another good one. Um, Ghost has a document that you may find helpful. I will include it in our onboarding document that talks about kind of how to debug my emails not going to the right place. I'm also available for you and happy to help at any time with that. But it's a great document. If you're worried about email deliverability, definitely recommend taking a look at it. All right, now that I've gone on for much too long, we have set up our newsletter for our first sending. We've walked through how to send a newsletter and we talked a little bit about how to actually get our newsletter where it's supposed to go. So we'll go ahead and stop there. If you have any questions, anything's giving you trouble, you're not getting the outcome you expect, please don't hesitate to reach out. Always enjoy talking to you. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.